Welcome to the Saints Report on Chat Sports. My name is Carter the Power Bryant. Are you kidding me? It's NFL draft time. The season can't get here already. I am still angry about that pass interference call like many of you, but life moves on. And I can't believe it. The NFL draft's already here. The combine was just yesterday. And it's strange because the Saints are in a weird position, not drafting until the second round, pick number 62. Now, for a lot of people that are not familiar, you're probably wondering, well, where do our draft picks go? Well, Marcus Davenport, the Saints moved up from pick number 27 to pick 14 to select the defensive end from the University of Texas San Antonio. We'll see if that actually pans out this year. And they also traded a pick to get Eli Apple, the corner from the New York Giants. So the Saints, out of all the teams in the NFL drafts, probably has the least draft capital to work with. But I would also like to add that it shouldn't be anything to really panic about because the Saints are one of the most complete teams in the NFL. Really, when you look at them from top to bottom right now, they have to be one of the 2 or 3 most complete rosters in all of football. So I think the Saints are not in a bad position whatsoever heading into this draft, especially considering right now they have the 3rd best odds to win the Super Bowl. So I think the Saints are just fine with where they are right now. And they'll look to get better in this NFL draft. This doesn't mean that this mock draft I'm about to share is all for naught. Before we get going, I do want to dive in, to me, the 5 biggest positions of need for the New Orleans Saints heading into this offseason, heading into this draft. And I want to start on the interior of the offensive line. Obviously, the Max Unger retirement really shocked a lot of people. You bring in Nick Eason from the Minnesota Vikings. A backup that I'm really high on is Will Clapp out of LSU. He's a New Orleans kid from Brother Martin who could play guard and center, and all that's great. But the Saints do need to add depth, and I do think that is a position that they definitely need to target in the NFL draft. Another wide receiver, definitely wide receiver. And, you know, I look at Michael Thomas and what he was able to do last year. Well, the thing about the NFL is that defensive coordinators are going to start adjusting to take Michael Thomas out of the game. Now, we all know about Traquan Smith, and we all know about Ted Ginn Jr., and you never know what you're going to get out of Cameron Meredith coming off that injury, but I do think if there's a big-time playmaker available for the Saints, they need to get it at the wide receiver position. Another position, pretty much the entire secondary, but in particular, corner. They need to add depth. Eli Apple is meh, so maybe you can add someone across from Marshawn Lattimore. Another position of need, defensive end, and to round it out, linebacker, the front 7 of the defense as a whole. I think interior defensive line as well, but on the edge, obviously a lot of people, like we mentioned, they want to expect more out of Marcus Davenport. We'll see what he's able to do next year. If there's another edge player available that you're high on, you need to take them because you need pass rush to win, especially in the NFC South where all the quarterbacks are good. And obviously, linebacker, that was a position that really shocked a lot of people last year. The Saints were really productive at linebacker. Demario Davis was great, but obviously you always could add depth at a position that, honestly, a lot of injuries happened. So, for me, I want to ask this question, our first audience question to you. What is the biggest position of need in the NFL draft for the New Orleans Saints? Comment below. Let me know because, yeah, we can figure this out together. You might agree, disagree. Let us know in the comments section. Send us a message. Send me a message on social media at Carter the Power. I want to know. So, let's get into this draft. Now, I do believe the New Orleans Saints are going to try to trade back. With only 6 picks in this draft, I do think that there is a position if the Saints are in the right position, they should trade back unless this one player is available. And to me, he is my favorite prospect in this NFL draft. I think he is a future Pro Bowl wide receiver. I'm that high on him. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I believe that should be their first wide receiver. Now, before I get into that, there are some other players that will be around that spot, including Jalen Ferguson, an edge player from Louisiana Tech. He used to have a first-round grade, but he has slid some due to some questions about his size. But I think Jalen Ferguson would be a great fit coming off the edge. Irv Smith, a tight end out of Alabama. You know, the Benjamin Watson retirement. Is he going to come back? Is he not? The Saints obviously added Jared Cook in the offseason. So Irv Smith out of Alabama, to me, is the most talented tight end in this draft, and he would be a good fit. Jaqueen Williams, corner out of Vanderbilt. The Saints have visited him and have interviewed him in the pre-draft workout process. Another corner around there, Travion Mullen out of Clemson, is actually a corner that I like better. But because of what I know and Williams' connection with the Saints, I put him there as one of the potential. And I for this draft, I actually did a website, draftnetwork.com, to do this mock draft. And I don't believe this player will be here, but if he's there, he might be too talented to pass up. That is Dexter Lawrence out of Clemson, the interior defensive lineman. Can play in a 3-4 or 4-3, a good gap plugger. But to me, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is a can't-miss tight end. And to me, out of all the Pac-12 receivers that I watched last year, he was the best. Now, I want to share one quick fact. You look at the Pro Bowl wide receivers last year, receivers that had Pro Bowl designation. There was 12 of them. Did you know that there were as many second-round wide receivers that made the Pro Bowl as there were first? Yes, there were 4 former first-round draft picks in the Pro Bowl that played wide receiver, and then there was 4 second-round picks. One of those second-round picks included Michael Thomas. I think J.J. Arcega-Whiteside would be the next one. My favorite thing about him is that out of all the wide receivers that I studied, he was the best at making contested catches in the red zone. Who in the NFL throws a better contested catch ball than Drew Brees? If you're a Saints fan, you've seen it time in and time out in the red zone, and he's connected with Michael Thomas, go all the way back to the Jimmy Graham and the Marcus Colston years. Drew Brees, he doesn't need fast receivers. He needs big receivers that can catch those 50-50 balls. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, to me, is the best receiver in this draft when it comes to that. He would be a perfect fit for the Saints offense. Not really a slot guy, but you can find slot receivers in the NFL. So I think he's just too talented of a player to pass up. As we mentioned, there's some other Saints wide receivers, but to me, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is a future Pro Bowl wide receiver in the NFL. Moving on to the 5th round, once again, if Arcega-Whiteside's not there, I believe the Saints should trade back and get more picks, and I think they will have the opportunity to do so. But we are just going to go by the numbers that we have here. For round 5, pick number 168, there was a few players I liked. Hunter Renfrow out of Clemson. If you're a college football fan, you're obviously very familiar with him. Great slot receiver who, to me, will always go down as one of the greatest national championship game wide receivers of all time. Bryce Love, a running back out of Stanford. A very versatile back, a very productive back under David Shaw. Travion Williams is another running back that could add some depth behind Alvin Kamara. He's another back like Bryce Love that can catch balls out of the backfield. That is something you have to do well to work in the Saints offense. And then TJ Edwards, a linebacker out of Wisconsin. But for this pick, I went with Sharif Miller, an edge player out of Penn State. Great size. His pass rushing technique leaves a lot to be desired. He's not polished, but when he gets the opportunity, he closes down on the quarterback well. He's really good on interior stunts. And to me, when I watched him on tape, He reminded me of a very watered down Cam Jordan. Now, everyone's going to be like, no, he's not going to be the next Cam Jordan. Not what I'm saying. What I am telling you is that this guy is 6'5". Cam Jordan is 6'5". They're around the same weight, and they play a very similar style of football. Cam Jordan can line you up as a tackle and play on the edge and play inside the tackle. Really good on interior pass rush moves and interior stunts. Sharif Miller is good at all of those things, plus he has long arms. Really good at batting down balls at the line of scrimmage. So, Sharif Miller out of Penn State to me would be a good fit. Moving on to round number 6, pick number 177. There's a few players here that I like. Khalil Hodge, a linebacker out of Buffalo. David Uzigid, I'm not even going to try. Running back out of Nebraska. I do know the Saints were in contact with him, according to reports. Alex Bars, offensive guard out of Notre Dame. And a really good pass-rushing defensive tackle out of Arkansas, Armon Watts. He was a late bloomer for the Razorbacks, but led the SEC out of all the great talented interior defensive linemen. He had more sacks than any of them in the SEC. But I'm going to go with a high-ceiling prospect, corner Savion Smith. Now, a lot of you Saints fans are LSU fans. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people were angry at Savion for transferring out of LSU and then eventually winding up at Alabama. That's one of the worst things you can do. That's like breaking up with your ex-girlfriend and going out with her best friend Becky the next week. You don't do that. But he did it. And to me at Alabama, he was okay. Allowed a few touchdowns, would have lapses in judgment. The mental aspects, parts of his game just aren't there. But the former 5-star recruit is an amazing athlete, will provide crazy good value on special teams, and could potentially be a Jimmy Smith out of the Baltimore Ravens type of corner. So I'm going to go with Savion Smith. Not my favorite player in the spot, but high upside and will definitely provide some depth at corner. And by favorite player, when I did my mock draft, a couple of players I thought would be there were not there. So I went with Savion Smith. Moving on to round number 6, pick number 202. I believe I can fly. Okay, I'm done. Michael Jordan. Are you kidding me? Michael Jordan. Your name is Michael Jordan? Yes, the interior offensive lineman out of Ohio State. A few other players I looked at, though, at that spot. Lamont Gaillard, a center out of Georgia, undersized, but he knows how to play the center position. I actually like him a lot, and I think he'd be a good fit for the center of the Saints offensive line. Blace Brown, a fast corner out of Troy. Gary Johnson, a solid linebacker out of Texas. And to me, this guy, if he's there, now in my mock draft, he was not here at this pick, but if you're not able to get J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the second round and you still want to address wide receiver, Cody Thompson out of Toledo is a guy that I like a lot. Great hands, decent speed, decent verticality on his routes, getting behind safeties. He can high point a football at a good rate. I do like Cody Thompson a lot. I think he'd fit well in the Saints offense. But because we took Whiteside early, we're going to go with Michael Jordan. We all know about Ohio State's offensive lines. We know about Orlando Pace. We know about all the great linemen that have come from the Buckeyes. And we also know about the Saints' long history with Ohio State's program, with Marshawn Lattimore, Von Bell, go all the way back to Malcolm Jenkins, and, of course, Michael Thomas. I think Michael Jordan could be the next good player for the Saints. They need depth on the interior of the offensive line. Jordan has experience playing center this year. All his years prior at Ohio State, he played offensive guard. I think he'd be a good fit. He's got great size. I do think it's important for the Saints to have sizable, solid centers and guards. And the reason why is because Drew Brees, better than anyone, steps up in the pocket to make a lot of his throws. He's really good at climbing the pocket. And for that to work, you need big offensive linemen that can hold on to their blocks long enough for him to do that. So Michael Jordan is definitely one of those types of players. Moving on to round number 7, really quickly, Nick Linder, offensive guard out of Indiana, Emeka Ebule out of Houston, Kari Willis, a safety out of Michigan State, and Chase Hansen, a linebacker out of Utah, are some players that the Saints will look at. But I'm going to go with a high-energy gap plugger in Greg Gaines, a nose tackle out of Washington. Gaines won the 2018 Morris Award, which goes to the best defensive lineman in the Pac-12. Yeah, he lacks top-end athleticism, and to me, his arms are really tiny. And for me, I think there's so much value in having long arms as a defensive lineman because you're able to bat balls down at the line of scrimmage. Gaines is not going to do that. However, he will be a defensive tackle that will be a plug-and-play type of player. And you look at the Saints' defensive line, they pick up Malcolm Brown in the offseason. Sheldon Rankins comes off an injury. They made a move for Mario Edwards. A guy like Greg Gaines will step in and provide depth immediately. So I'm going to go with Greg Gaines, a nose tackle who's used to playing head up on the center, but I also think he could play a 3 technique outside the offensive guard's shoulder. And my final pick, I've looked at some good players here. Bruce Anderson, a running back out of North Dakota State. Yelda Froholt, another one of those offensive guard center combos out of Arkansas. And he's actually a former defensive lineman. Jamal Custis, wide receiver out of Syracuse. And Jerome Washington, a tight end out of Rutgers. I'm going with Mitch Hyatt, an offensive tackle out of Clemson. Saints need depth at one of the most important positions in the NFL. You need great left tackle play. Once again, I like Greg Gaines out of Washington. Not really amazing upside. He's going to be a solid rotational offensive tackle. So to me, you look at Mitch Hyatt, 2 facts about him. 4-year starter at Clemson. So all those successful Clemson teams over the years, all those big games that he played, he's right there. And he held his own against Alabama in all those games. Something else that I want to include is that he won back-to-back Blocker of the Year awards in the ACC, known as the Jacobs Trophy. So congrats to him, and congrats to him being selected by the Saints in this mock draft. So Mitch Hyatt, offensive tackle out of Clemson. And I want to give you one audience question really quickly. Do you believe the Saints will draft a quarterback in the upcoming draft? Now, I know they re-signed Teddy Bridgewater, and I know Drew Brees is Drew Brees. But let's say Will Greer of West Virginia is there. He's a guy that I like a lot. High upside kid. And what if he's there? What if you feel strongly enough in his ability to be a great quarterback in the NFL? What about Clayton Thorson out of Northwestern? So, do you believe the Saints will draft a quarterback in this draft? Comment Y for yes below. Comment in for no. Tell us why if you want to. So there you go. Now, because this is my first ever video for Chat Sports, I'm not going to give you one, but I'm going to give you 2 UDFAs. Yes, undrafted free agents that I love a lot. Okay, I watched a lot of film over the weekend to get ready for this video. This guy is a long shot, but I love him, and I'm going to tell you why. Matthew Betts. This is a player that played at Laval. And if you don't know where Laval is, well, it's in Canada. Yes, he played at the East-West Shrine game and blew some scouts away. Okay, he's 6'2", long arms, runs 4'7", pretty decent speed for a defensive end. Not amazing, but decent speed. And his pass rushing technique is flawless. He toasted every offensive tackle that he played against in the East-West Shrine game. Once again, I love defensive linemen with long arms. And To me, he's someone that I think could go in there and block kicks. He's someone that could be a personal protector on punt team, runs well. Very good football IQ. You could tell that from the way he rushes a passer. So great speed, high football IQ. He is a project down the road. But one of the interesting things about him is that Canadian football defensive linemen have to actually be 1 yard off the football whenever they actually fire off, like before the actual snap is made. So that makes it even more difficult to get to the quarterback if you're 1 yard off the football, and bets still consistently, even at the Canadian level. We could talk about those offensive tackles not being NFL offensive tackles all day, but that is a huge advantage. When you're in a 3-point stance, a yard off the football, it's a huge advantage to the offensive lineman, and Betts still got home. And maybe, the Saints could be the first of a trend. Maybe offensive linemen in the NFL, or maybe it's good for defensive linemen to practice rushing that far off the football. So, Matthew Betts out of Laval is a player that I like a lot. I don't think he'll be drafted, but if he's there in the 7th round and you think he's worth your pick, I know an NFL team's going to pick him up, and I do believe down the road he could be a really good player. And then Tyron Johnson is a slot receiver that went to Oklahoma State. Initially was an LSU Tiger. He's from New Orleans, went to Warren Easton High School. To me, he was underutilized at Oklahoma State, really only had 1 year production. I think he can line up outside, he can line up inside, he's got soft hands, and hasn't played a lot of football, so has a lot of tread left on the tires. So that's another UDFA I would definitely check out. Boom! That was fun! You hung out with me for this long on Chat Sports! Are you kidding me? You gotta subscribe to the videos, okay? You gotta go check out the Cowboys report. You gotta go check out the 49ers report, man. Those dudes are just killing it, talking about these mock drafts and whatnot. So go there, subscribe, follow me on social media at Carter the Power. Let the world know how ugly I am, okay? If you disagree with any of the picks, let me know, okay? Please. Boom. Enjoy your draft, baby. Enjoy your draft.